Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Daily AI Show. We've got a good new episode for you. We are joined by Beth and Andy, and I am Jyunmi, and we are talking about. Oh, and Robert just popped in. Awesome, perfect.
And
We're
Robert.
talking about is AI the next secret shopper? So today is Tuesday, and I'm going to hand this off to Andy, who's got an interesting take on this.
I don't know how interesting it is. I'll try to make it interesting. So this whole idea for this show is about the extension and improvement of QA, quality assurance, in software testing, and particularly for sort of imitation of users on websites, which is really what automated testing scripts do. So, for example, in e-commerce, if you build a new website and you're about to launch it, before you ever launch it, of course, you have some humans testing it, but you need to bang through it with automated test scripts that are written by the unsung heroes of automated testing, which are the QA engineers. And they write these automated scripts in code that basically say, okay, click this button and then go here and add this to your cart and then check out and then do that. But they have to run that script on every single possible combination of browsers and mobile devices in order to make sure that your website really works for all of those things. Because it's not a given that whatever code you wrote is actually going to work on the Edge browser, for example, when you've designed it originally to be optimized for Chrome. So that's QA. And now imagine the application of AI to the generation of those automated test scripts. And I'm going to give you a progression as we get to the robotic secret shopper concept. So now you've got this AI generation where you're basically using natural language query or natural language direction to an automated script generator. And there's actually a company out there that advertises this availability. It's called Test Sigma. And it's basically no code, natural language generation for automated test scripts. And you can generate these tests instead of having to have an engineer sit there and write this code and say, okay, well, let me see, I'm moving forward on this screen on this website that's running in my test server. And now I've got to make it do this and so on. And then I package that all up and run it. Instead, you just say, okay, I want you to check out using, a Chrome browser, and I want you to buy 3 different products and then remove one from your cart and so on. So you can imagine all the different possible combinations of human actions and just write them in natural language. And so that's this automated test script generation. But now here's where we really make the departure. All of those test scripts don't try to simulate in any way what the nature or character of the user is. They just try to examine all the possible pathways through the website.
Right.
But what about the different personas and what their experience of the user experience is, right? Now, personas are these definitions of different target customers that you have. Here's a website that's an e-commerce site. You might say, okay, well, here's a female. She's 36. She's our target customer because we're Etsy or whatever. And so then we have to say, okay, well, here's these others. Now imagine creating one of each of those personas that you've identified as your primary and secondary target customers and tertiary, et cetera, and building a custom GPT that is articulated through your instructions and the knowledge that you deliver in that custom GPT. So it knows how to represent itself as that customer. Now you can have that custom GPT react to, and this isn't available yet, but now you can have that custom GPT inhabiting the persona of your target customer, go through the process of using your website and give you feedback from the perspective of that customer. That's a game changer. I hate people who use that term, but I just did. That's a game changer because, importantly, as I just explained, it adds the character of the user rather than just automating actions in the UI.
Right.
So that's the whole idea. And then there's also this idea of synthetic users. Now you generate robotically automated, persona-enabled synthetic users who can go out and navigate multiple websites and say, hey, I went out, and they report back to you because they're a large language model with really great language skills. I went out and I tried these 3 competitor sites, and here was my experience with those. And you can send an army of these synthetic users out to do that kind of transaction process. You don't actually finally check out unless you do. Maybe part of your test program includes, okay, we're going to buy certain products and see what the end-to-end experience is. And you can, as an e-commerce company, you might actually want to hire a synthetic user, secret shopper kind of program to get all the way through the entire user experience of buying from your company. Okay, and then now we're going to launch the conversation about how does that translate ultimately into secret shopping in retail locations, because there's also a whole range of technologies that are being used in store to track and observe users' behavior as they walk through the store and what they're looking at and what they reach for and what they pick up. All of those things are on the roadmap for this new application of artificial intelligence. Discuss.
That is different. That's like secret spy shopping, secret shopping your shoppers. Like that's
and that exists. That exists.
Exactly. I think that's where we are. And I have 2 big questions there for you, Andy. There are companies doing both of these right now. I just don't know them. I know there's people doing, tracking people in a site or in a location with cameras. I know my friend works for a company that does that and sees where they do things. But regarding the website, I mean, all that technology is completely available right now. I just know that somebody's doing it. Do you know of any companies that are actually doing this?
I did a Perplexity search about that, and let me just tell you that it came back with these 3 companies for automating web browser testing, automated testing using AI. The one I mentioned, Test Sigma. Another one is called Catalan, offers AI-powered regression testing based on real user behavior. So apparently you can observe some test users that you have, and then it's going to imitate that user behavior as it goes through the repetitive testing using multiple browsers, etc. And then another one is called Selenium. And I don't know anything about any of those 3, but I did take a look at the Test Sigma website, and they say quite clearly that this Test Sigma is sort of the future of automated testing using natural language writing of automated test scripts.
Nice.
Very cool.
On the other side, I got a company called Prisma, and they're more about the analytics side. So once you get your data in there, they can provide some insight on, assortment choices, product matching, and those kinds of things.
So I can imagine when I'm sort of imagining myself as the persona in this, I can imagine that being able to target so closely that that if you upsell me a more expensive product or a slightly less expensive product, it leads to a purchase, right? Like I'm more likely to purchase if you give me something like, wow, this is a really great value if you spend $10 more, or wow, this is a really great value if you spend $10 less, right? Like that level of being able to target in that shopping behavior would be would be really important. I wanted to say game changer, but I didn't want Andy to hate me. So
But another application of this custom GPT approach, and by the way, Hugging Face also is now launching a whole platform for custom GPTs that are open source.
Just like it.
We'll talk about that tomorrow because Wednesday is always the day that we do the news of the week, and that's a very important development because custom GPTs are a thing, as you'll hear now. You can use custom GPTs and the definition of individual persona types to help you with product development. So I'm designing a new product, and I want to know whether that product is of interest to certain of these potential target customers, or which customers, would be interested in this thing. I can actually have a natural conversation in ChatGPT, and I say, now I'm going to address now this persona that's defined as, Robert Milchel, 38 years old. He loves technology, so that's the persona I've defined, and I give it lots of different, again, instructions and documentation that gives it a personality. And I just put the @ symbol into the chat GPT and I say, @Robert GPT, tell me what you think about this product that's in this thread that we've been discussing. And that can have a huge amount of information about the features and functions of that product as you've designed it, even images of that. And now that persona is going to comment on that. I think right now, everyone who's doing AI for product design and development ought to be using these multiple personas in ChatGPT and or similar in order to evaluate their product thinking.
Mm-hmm. Karl, did you want to address that?
There was one thing I was thinking about more, not what we have now, but like for me, I really am, one of the things I'm looking forward to an agent is that, hey, I need to buy things that you don't really care about brand. So it's like, I need those Oral-B replacement things on my toothbrush, or I need more deodorant, or I need like soap. So it's like, could you go out and find me like the best bulk deal on soap and purchase it? When I think secret shopper, I'm like, go do that, and I'll pay.
That's like, personal assistant. That's not secret shopper.
I just, because that's how I'm like, or I can see that on GPT. Find me the best deal at whatever GPT. Find me best deal at personal assistant. Go buy me.
It's a secret for Karl because he wouldn't tell anyone, except we're broadcasting it to anyone who's listening.
Right. But it would be a secret shopper to analyze what Karl's purchasing habits are, right? So if he just says, I only care about price, then that's going to be...
Wouldn't Amazon already know that? Amazon already knows all our, technically, for those who use Amazon a lot, they would know our behaviors and what we get on a regular basis. So to me, it wouldn't be that difficult, like wouldn't be a stretch for Amazon to be like, this is your agent. Each shopper gets an agent, and based on this, they can literally set it to go and find the best deals or find the best things for what you've been looking for, and it would just buy it for you.
Well, there's no secrets.
Right.
No secrets.
Personalization is part of that data set, right? It's just
all the recommendations you see when you're on the Amazon website, all those recommendations are being driven by AI. Amazon is a major leader in the application of AI in e-commerce, and one of the earliest sort of instantiations of AI is collaborative filtering recommendations. So you look like this kind of customer to us based on the actions that you took on our website and the things that you have purchased, and we looked at a billion customers who are like you, maybe not a billion who are like you, but we looked at a billion customers. We found the ones that are similar to you based on your pattern of behavior. And here's what they buy that you don't buy.
The difference,
I wanna show you that.
in their application and what we're experiencing in the last 12, 24 months is generative AI versus pattern recognition. So what you're
Yeah.
referring to that AI has been
That's right.
around for years is recognizing the patterns and the buying habits of people like you. And it's very simple, connect the dots. But what I think we're saying with this secret shopper is it's way, way more bespoke. It's way more particular. It's even like you have really bushy eyebrows. You're a different character than I don't know, some really unique trait. It can say, look at this person's traits more specifically than just their shopping habits, right? So what you were saying when you started this whole conversation, Andy, is we're getting to a point where the websites can employ generative AI powered, assistants or website trackers to understand whether the website is properly structured for their target audience. And that's the key.
Indeed.
That's the beautiful thing about what we're seeing about the secret shoppers. Let's say our key personas are Jyunmi, Beth, and me. Arguably quite different ages and genders and everything else and habits, but they've identified our personas as the top three. And they want to make sure the website talks to each one of us. They might even have different landing pages, which is very much a thing these days for each one, depending on how we got there. Oh, is this Beth watching the website? We got to change it up because Beth is the one clicking the buttons. And that is really where we're going to start to see web design and user experiences much more catered, which is kind of what we're talking about, right?
I think Karl's got a thing on this.
Well said.
So I showed this concept, and we were actually talking to Google about this, where because of conversational, we're all being trained on conversations. Like all tools now will have some sort of conversation assistant to it, whatever that is. So the next iteration we believe in website design would be, hey, I want, like you go to any website, I either want a demo, I want to find your product, and it generates the pages for you based on what you input. So it's like, I am from Houston, I'm this. That page would be generated with content based on what you put in. So it'll be like you said, Robert, a truly personalized experience for every single visitor, which is really, really, really upends kind of like how websites are being developed now.
Truly.
Hey, I want to take a quick side here just to inject this other idea, which is eventually we will have assistants do all this work. That's what you asked for, Karl. You want to have a representation of you that knows you really well go out and interact with these websites. So you can imagine now in the API interface between your assistant and a website that's providing a product or a service, it says, okay, your assistant says, okay, I'm going to tell you all about me, Karl. And now I want you to tell me what you think I need from your website.
And that's the irony of the technology is now we can be empowered to develop those assistants as opposed to being strictly tracked by it, which is hilarious, right? Which if you watch This Day in AI, they did that. Used to be you get robocallers calling you. Now you can have robocalls calling outward. You can say, yeah, I want to find out which restaurant in my town has a no wait. Go ahead and call 20 restaurants and spam the crap out of these people answering the phone. Their argument was that we got subjected to it for years. Now it's their turn, but funny
Don't
stuff.
spam the crap out of the people answering the phones at restaurants. But I can imagine, right? So I was thinking, like my profile for grocery shopping may say, if you give me too many choices in the morning, I will not check out, right? Like, sorry, I do not have that. I just want to buy what's in the cart and like bypass that. And then I will check out. And that's a better thing perhaps. Or at night, you can give me choices and I'm going to consider them more. But then so that's the store's AI. Now my AI is saying, actually, you get the better deal in the morning, right? So we're going to have a conversation. My AI and I are going to have a conversation about all the things I might buy. And then that's going to go out at the time that's most optimized for my needs, right? And now we just go back and forth.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Right. That's cool. Well, I wanted to take a second and come back to what are we seeing right now? What is the latest innovation right now? We're definitely talking about things that we're going to see in a little bit, and and in the AI world that might be 3 months. But I found this interesting article that was talking about the implementations from Victoria's Secret, right? They have plenty of retail stores, but they also have e-commerce sites as well. And one of the big things that they're doing is they have a generative AI virtual assistant. So I think there's that first spot or that first step towards getting to that point where our two assistants are really talking to each other, right? So with this Gen AI virtual assistant, that's where that communication's coming from. Oh, hey, I want to look for this kind of thing, or they know your preferences as your customer, and they're building that persona. What else do you think? What else is being used right now in that kind of space?
Well, I think everything we've talked about is being used right now, actually, by the bigger players, the ones that are first, early adopters. Wouldn't you agree,
Okay.
Karl? Have you seen this in some of what you've been doing with your company?
A little bit, but like I think at the moment, I think we're maybe in one of those cusps. So that because let's say in conversation with Google, they're like, I think we're about 3 to 6 months away, because they're like, once GPT-5, once Ultra, like those kind of things are really start being like used beyond a large language model, the APIs are being used. That's when we'll see the next great big leap, because we saw that with GPT-4. It was like a 1 or 2 month delay where everything started coming out. So it's like the same thing here, 1 or 2 month delay, and then we'll start seeing like the new things that are being built on top of these things. So I think we're maybe in that, like, just that little lull again, even though there's still things being built, that we'll see another big time explosion of the even new stuff. So
Way back in, I think you're right, Karl. I was surprised when trying to find examples of companies that are building persona-oriented synthetic users for QA on e-commerce sites. That was sort of the focus of the secret shopper kind of thread that I was looking for. There weren't that many, and they weren't far beyond just doing automated test script generation. And that's not really persona oriented. So I was surprised it's not there. Early in 2023, so last year, really at the sort of the inception of all of this hoopla around generative AI, I did come across, in the interest of trying to find a tool that would help refine, using personas, help refine marketing messaging. I did find a company that did something slightly different, which is creates a set of personas that you articulate. And this was a company before, Chat GPT-4 and custom GPTs and all that stuff. So they were doing this as a product and a service, as a software as a service. And you create a council of personas for your primary and secondary and tertiary customers. And then you can give it the marketing messaging that your creative team puts out, and it's going to you're going to collect feedback from each of those personas. And that is not exactly shopping, but it's certainly in that dynamic conversation that's happening between the buyer assistant and the seller assistant, right? So that's about articulating the unique selling propositions and the value propositions of your product and service. What's the product promise? Getting that refined so that it really sinks in well with a certain persona. And then now we jump to the idea that we have where personalization happens, and somehow a shopping representation of me basically is authorized to give you what my persona is. These are the characteristics and attributes of my persona, what I'm interested in generally. And it's going to give that to the seller assistant, and the seller assistant is going to tailor its messaging, the actual words that it's using, the product promises that it's giving me, not only the products, but the way those products are expressed in order to try to encourage me to buy.
Yeah, I think what you're kind of teetering around is kind of where I think Beth's is going to come in. This is going to be the natural evolution. As you know, Facebook through the years have slowly kind of chopped away at our ability to know more about the users and advertise toward them. They kind of restricted that, and Apple's doing the same thing. And, as far as ads and tracking and whatnot. So the natural answer to the advertisers is just like Apple does with, when you're doing a registration on a website, you can do hide my email, right? But so this could be what you're talking about, Beth. I really hope this is. It's like, okay, well, here, I'm not going to let you know about me, but here's my digital person, my digital persona that I've created that you can know enough about me to show me some catered ads in case I want to buy something. And you can retract it and give it to whatever website you want. So that is the answer to what you're talking about, which, is creating solutions and AI generated tools to target people. Those being targeted then can say, well, I'll let you target my persona and I'll let you play with that person. Then I'll retract it and then give it. I love that as a future, because that answers the problem with privacy and what's been going on. That allows us to have the best of both worlds, because we're all in businesses. We're all working for businesses or have businesses and clients who are trying to constantly get clients. And customers. So we've been neutered. I've been neutered in the franchise industry, being able to use Facebook to generate leads, and we're having a harder time more and more. So I love this idea.
Well, and personalized service, right? You're grouping me with a group of people based on my age, my health, where I live, my income, right? Those kinds of things. I may not match that.
Exactly.
And that's bad. That's a bad experience for both of us.
Yes.
Right. So the more accurately you can target me, the better for me. And I may personally give you that information so that experience is better between us. Right.
Yeah, no, I want to make that into a secret shopper for me. So now, there's a persona that I've defined with a long list of all the things that I'm interested in, but I'm not going to allow it to reveal who I am.
Right.
So that's what you mean when you say, I'm going to let you talk to my persona, but not to me. So there can't be a connection on the seller side to my actual email and personality. It's going to be, I send out my secret shopper. That secret shopper assistant goes to all these websites and then comes back to me and says privately, here are the two that you should look at.
Yeah, but the problem is I don't think anybody's working on this. I love this as an idea, but I don't think anybody's working on this.
Another $1 million idea.
Just
follow back, people.
The Daily AI Show for $1 million ideas.
That's being recorded, so we can actually prove that we had the genesis of the idea.
Okay.
So when I was researching this, they gave me, Perplexity gave me kind of the opposite of the secret shopper, which was Amazon's generative AI just walk out technology. And that creeped me out. Like, they're watching you in the store and you could just leave because it knows you, right? Like, it's, I don't know, you scanned something when you walked in. They know what you got. You just walked out. And I'm like,
charge you on the way out? Is that what
yeah, I feel like I need a little more transaction. I need it can be a robot, right? Like, we can just nod each other. I got this, you got me, cool, I'm out.
That's kind of cool though. You just walk into a store, you can just grab somebody and doesn't walk out, and it charges you. Like, you don't have to worry about talking to anybody. Perfect for introverts.
Right.
What was wrong with the website?
Okay, so final thoughts. What is the next step in the secret shopper or shopping in general that you want to see? I think, Robert, you kind of peeked on what you want to see there. What are the thoughts for anybody else?
Well, I think the next step should be a personal assistant with agent capability. It can actually do transactions for me, and it knows what I want, and it can go out and do secret shopping up until the time of the transaction, right? When it finally reveals my credit card number and who I am.
But do you want it to even reveal that? Like,
you can use a virtual card, I suppose. There's that technology now. I don't know if you've seen that, where I think the virtual credit cards do the transaction without conveying the personally identifiable information about you.
I have that already with my Apple Card. It changes every time I make a purchase, so it never remembers it. But this is a very interesting. One of our users, one of our hundreds of viewers, stated this. Anybody want to address this question?
Does the group think this opens up organizations for any risk of bias? I haven't heard anyone mention the healthcare space yet, but will add that this type of innovation is happening within health tech today. Have to drop soon, but always happy to chat with anyone looking to learn more.
Oh, yeah. So let's suppose you have a condition that you suspect you have a condition that you don't want to have revealed to anyone because it might have implications for your employer and so on. So you want to have HIPAA compliant transaction by your assistant to examine who the providers are who might give you advanced treatments and or proven treatments for that condition. I can see that being a natural application of your personal assistant. So when I think it will start with shopping, which is not so risky as your healthcare purchases, right? But I can see it being a natural extension of the personal assistant.
Well, and let's talk about the bias part, because bias is which is bias for one is reality for others. So it's an eye of the beholder, so to speak, and so it's a very touchy topic when you use those four letters together. But I think that it's important when you're thinking about consumers and those selling things, you already have identified who your buyer is based on the data. Now, would you be biased as a seller? Well, of course you're biased. You want the certain people that buy from you. So if you have the data that says these are the 5 characteristics of a buyer, then you only want those type of people. So I'm not sure if it's biased. Does anybody have an opinion about bias?
Well, go ahead.
Who was the go ahead? Is it me?
Okay, I'll just say that in my mind, the idea of bias here is that there is an incomplete or biased interpretation of the data that I send out as my personal assistant that mischaracterizes me and then does something that is offensive and or incorrect in offering me something in the transaction between that assistant and the seller assistant. So there is the potential for bias there because the training of the seller's assistant in analyzing the sort of the sparse number of data points that I'm providing through my assistant could be off.
Right, right. And so your data is only as good as the data as the opportunities to gather data from you. And so if there is bias in that initial piece, there's less information. So if you were looking at data about credit card purchases by accounts owned by women in 1968, that is a very, there's not, because women weren't allowed to have their own accounts, right? Like there's that kind of, and so you could read the data that looks like, that could reach a result that is incorrect if you didn't have that information, right?
Where's the risk? Where's the damage? I mean, obviously that's a unique, nobody's going to go after data that old. They're going to want something new to make sure they're kind of relating their product and service to somebody that they want to sell it to. So I can't quite see a negative or harm.
Well, I'll just say that it could be a real inconvenience if you're trying to interact with a website and it's misclassifying you.
Okay.
And now I've done this with interactive voice response systems. No, that's not what I want to do. And I don't want to go through the menu again to try to get you to know that what I'm saying is this. That it's really frustrating to work in that automated customer service environment if it's not getting you.
Yep.
And if it starts to be really trying to be creative and really try to position yourself, like, you are in New Orleans, or you're from Creole, you speak kind of it tries to mimic you, thinking that that's how you speak. That can be kind of offensive, right? So I guess there's a risk of mischaracterizing you as a certain ethnicity or type of regional dialect. That could be, I guess, Why
So
would they do? Why would they develop it that way anyway?
Wouldn't one of the, I guess, like indirect or direct impacts would be the entire, if we have secret shoppers, the entire marketing and sales kind of industry, because a lot of that right now they live and breathe by data. And if you start having these secret shoppers, I don't know where, like, you could get aggregate data, but like the individual data you get, that'll change how people market and how people sell.
Mhm.
See, and there's an opportunity for personalization here, but there's also very likely an opportunity for a revenue decision to be made.
Mhm.
That, like, we know so much about you, we don't want you as a customer because you're a little more expensive than this, and we can meet our targets. And I am sensitive to this because I'm pretty sure I'm on the like hyper personalized side, and it's like, hey, come on.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of commerce sites out there right now, Karl, that know you're from Canada and just saying no.
Don't want to hear them.
Look, the angry Canadian has joined us.
Yeah.
All right.
Shame.
All right. I think this is a great place to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us today, and join us tomorrow as we review the week in news. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yes.
All right,
Cheers.
take it easy.
Everyone.
Aloha.